She is Ivana Katz. The reason why she should inspire you, Ivana, she's a quite likable person. I must say quite likable person because you can like her too much, you know what I mean? Because she's very infectious, likable. Now, the reason why she does the studio, Ivana, apart of being a successful entrepreneur, she survived, call of the death, I would call this. She's a cancer survivor. And in a moment like this, I like to introduce you, the guest, like Ivana Katz, to draw the inspiration, be empowered to the real people who nothing more, nothing less, fought not with the help of somebody else, but by themselves, digging so deep. There was no people around her whispering her ears, it's going to be good, it's going to be great. She faced her own death with her own eyes and ears. And in that moment, the most unlikely, you'll never expect who was her help, you're going to hear from her. Ivana, thank you for coming to the studio.
Hi, Mario. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Ivana. Now, tell me something. Who is Ivana Katz before we come to the point of being the fighter?
Oh, goodness. Where do I start? I'm still trying to discover
You can
who I am.
we can start with the PIN number, for your credit card.
Well, you know what? It's funny. As life has moved on, I kind of identify myself in different, like I said, in different roles. And
yes.
For me, I always say I'm a mom. That's like my number one priority. As far as what I do is I'm a website designer, and I like to think that I design websites that build people's businesses. I work a lot with coaches, consultants, and service providers that want to get their website up and running really quickly. And there's over about 200 new websites coming online every single minute.
Sorry.
So it's
say again that number,
200,000
what?
No, it's 200 websites per minute, new websites coming online worldwide per minute. Yeah. So if you do the maths, what is that? By the time you and I finish talking, that's going to be what's that? What's 200 by 60?
200 by 60, 1200.
Sorry?
12,000.
Yeah, there you go. So 12,000 new websites.
It technically means to calculate as well. So, I'm sorry for that.
Michael probably would have been better at the maths than
I was looking for the calculator around, but I couldn't, because we are simultaneously on your Zoom as well, which you're going to use afterwards to introduce yourself and do the interview. But so 12,000 websites. That's correct.
12,000 websites coming online, and it's very hard to stand apart from everybody else. Yeah. And so where I come in, having done this for, about 15 years now, I've kind of been around the block, and so I see what works and what doesn't. So my role is to guide new entrepreneurs in getting them online in the fastest possible way, and without too much stress.
Okay, so I know that you are offering not just the websites as a paid client, but you're offering you somehow giving back to the society. You have some program with people, you advertise them for free. Am I correct, or did I say this
You are, yes. What I decided, and this just came to me, I've always been about supporting small business owners. And so what I decided, having been around for a long time, means I have what's called a high domain ranking, which means anytime I post anything on Google, I get indexed very quickly. And if anybody has a link pointing to their website from my website, it's actually good for them to help them rank. And so I decided I was going to help educate other people about what everybody else is doing in their industry by publishing people's businesses on my website. And so I actually received an overwhelming response when I put the call out. So I'm in the process at the moment of adding everybody's details, and I'm hoping to have that done in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, that's very interesting, Ivana. But now let's just make a step back. As I mentioned at the beginning, and to our listeners, Ivana is really, really, really unique person. And I can say this, we all have in our life ups and downs. Life hit us the ways we never expected. Sometimes this is the money, sometimes this is, I mean, loss of the job, I mean, or your girlfriend's cheating on you. It's not talking about myself, I mean, I have this in the past many times. But the point is, or sometimes you get, you know, invoice from the life, you know what I mean? And that invoice says like you should be dead by now, and give you a couple months to sort your affairs. Now, Ivana, this is the moment where I like to introduce, our listeners your story. A reason for that it is because, as I mentioned before, this is a crisis, you know what I mean? And there's nobody better, as a guest before, Michael Dehan yourself, where you experienced a fight literally for your life, and guess before Michael Dehan has some losses and actually making him to help many, 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 many other women. Now, Ivana, your story is quite different.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're the fighter, and please tell our listeners why I'm calling you a fighter. May I say you're the cancer survivor? So tell us, kind of this process, like how this happened that you find out have a cancer, and how did you felt, and who helped you? Give us your story.
Okay. Well, I was lucky. I turned 50, and I don't advertise this very much, but I
Me
received.
either, so don't worry, so I'm 47, so let's, we're gonna have a senior concession card soon, you know what I mean? That's okay.
Before I start on the story, I want to share a funny story because I think we can all do with a bit of a laugh. But
Yes,
you've met my son Jordan, and
yes.
when I turned 40, I started counting backwards. I started counting my age backwards,
Why
and
is that
there
then?
was backwards. So when I turned 41, I was telling everybody I was 39, and when I turned
Yeah.
42, I was
Well, this is
38.
like
So
a curious case of Benjamin Button, or this is they'll try to.
I don't know. I never saw that movie, but that was
You
just
sure?
my
Yeah,
way,
anyway, yeah.
my way of dealing with things. Anyway, this one particular day, Jordan and I were at home, and I was doing the dishes, and I cut my hand open on a glass, and it was bleeding quite a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jordan came running in, and he asked if he should call the ambulance, and I started feeling a little bit dizzy, and I asked him to call them. Anyway, he called them. He was very calm. And then they asked him how old I was. And I could see this look on his face, and he was thinking, like, do I reveal her real age, or do I tell her the age that she tells everybody else?
So did he say the real age, or did you go like magic number?
I can't remember what he gave them. I think he probably gave them my real age because he knew things were about to
How
get
he
tough.
dares, man. Yeah.
But anyway, so when I turned 50, I got in the mail a kit to do all sorts of cancer tests, and I put it
Hmm.
off for a few months, but then I've decided, let's just handle it.
Yeah.
And so I went to have a mammogram done locally. And about 2 weeks before Christmas in 2017, I received a letter saying that they found something, but don't worry, 9 out
Yeah.
of 10, it's nothing. But
Yeah.
because it was Christmas time, the clinic was closed, so I had to wait for about 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
I can tell you that was a bad Christmas because you can't stop thinking about it. Like if they find something, and if you get an
Yeah.
urgent letter in the mail, you think, well, what are the chances? But so I waited for 3 weeks, and I had to go and get another mammogram and an ultrasound, and they found something. And they decided to do a biopsy right there and then. And sitting in the doctor's office, I knew it wasn't going to be good news.
So did you like
Thankfully, I
have
had
some
my.
sort of, did you have some sort of premonition, or did you what did you
Yeah, I felt it. I think maybe, I could see the look on the doctors' faces. I could see sort of how they were interacting
yeah,
with me versus everybody else that was there.
yeah,
A lot of people came when they came for their second call. They just did the mammogram and they were sent home, but they asked
yes,
me to stay for more tests and more tests. So I kind of felt things were not going to be too good. I had to wait about 3 days, which were probably the longest three
Longest
days of
days,
my
okay, yeah.
life, to get the results. And as I said, I didn't feel like I was going to have good news. So I asked my dad and my brother to come with me, because I didn't know how I was going to cope.
Yeah.
And finally, I was told that, yes, it is cancer. And it was quite aggressive from the biopsy. And so they
Yeah.
suggested that I go and see my doctor. And then, uh, which I did that straight that afternoon. I already had an appointment. And from there, I just kind of got on the what I call the cancer bus, where you basically
Cancer bus, interesting, yeah, yes.
you get on this journey. It's kind of like you never you sitting there and you told where to go and what to do and how to do it. And so I was given a team of doctors, so a
Mm-hmm.
surgeon, an
Yes.
oncologist, and a radiation specialist. And they kind of they work as a team, so they know each other,
Yeah.
and they work well together. And so that journey took 8 months. So I started first with surgery, which thankfully it was only a lumpectomy because the cancer hadn't spread
Yeah.
too much. Um, then they felt, because it was quite aggressive, that I would benefit from having chemotherapy. So that went over 4 months.
Yeah.
And then finally they gave me a few weeks off, and then I had radiation for 6 weeks, which was pretty much every day.
Well, Ivana, that's a very powerful story. We'll take a short break because we have more questions for you. And for those who tune right now with me, it's Ivana Katz. Ivana, what's the name of your business again?
Websites for small business.
Website for small business. Reason why we have the Ivana today, it is, she's a survivor. She survived something and she's sharing with you, all of us, not just with you, but with me, not just in Sydney, but Australia-wide and globally. In a crisis like a COVID-19, where is everything unpredictable and works, I mean, today you can do the test and be negative, tomorrow it can be positive. And as we know, the COVID claims a lot of lives, almost 150,000 people, and the numbers are just staggering. Now, saying that, I mean, our guest in studio, website for small business, Ivana Katz, she is a true survivor, and she shared with us her crisis moments, or sorry, moments of crisis with all of you. And I'm very grateful having her today in the studio. We'll take a short break, and then we're going to hammer Ivana with the more questions how you can get out from the crisis successful. back to the studio, listening to Line 90.5, the most sexiest voice in the planet universe. My name is Mario Bekes, the host of Business Insights with Mario, of course. Now we're coming back to our guest, Ivana Katz from the website for the small business, correct?
Websites for small business, that's right,
Okay,
yes.
I need to remember. I just remember my name. Is that my name? My name. And as for who you're tuning in, our previous guest was Michael Dehan. You're gonna hear his interview, very powerful interview, and he's generous and kind, hard, helping many, many, many. It's gonna be on our website, alive90.5.com.au. Now, for our second guest, I left her for the last, Ivana Katz. She's a true survivor, and she shared with us, with all of you, the story of how to survive in the moments of a crisis like this one of COVID-19, where nothing can be predictable. Actually, Ivana, you know what I heard? Very interesting. I heard that what's it called the theory? What's it called in the theory? Oh my god, I forgot the word. Um, chaos theory. What's the calling? Oh my god, lost my word there. Conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory. Oh my god, conspiracy theory. This is the aliens things, right? It's aliens coming on, down on the planet Earth and things like that. This is the newest one. You know what I mean? It's like instead of me doing the blog, Ivana Katz small website for small businesses, she's in us a studio, and the reason why she's a true survivor. And I'm really hoping that you're gonna draw the inspiration and power for her, not just for the business, but the life in moments of crisis of the COVID-19. Ivana, she was 50 years old when she went to do some testings, and it was Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, and she found out a few days later that she has a very aggressive form of cancer, breast cancer. Ivana, am I correct?
That's correct, yes, it was breast cancer.
Yeah. So can you just put your radio background a little down?
Okay. Is
because
that better?
it's
Can you hear me better now?
well, it's echoing, but
It's echoey.
yes. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So the reason why this is done tonight in today's studio, she's a true survivor and she knows what comes it is. So Ivana, that was a breast cancer, correct?
That's correct, yes, it was breast cancer.
And I spoke to David and said I was being on a cancer bus and they had the group of the doctors with you. And what was the story there from there following? Have you been afraid? Did you see the only darkness? Did you say like, okay, my life is over?
Well, I think the hardest part were honestly about the 3 or 4 days until I knew what my what the treatments were going to be, and while I waited for the results to see if the cancer had spread anywhere else in my body. So that was really, really, really painful. I tried to distract myself with work. I tried to keep myself busy watching TV.
Yes.
And once I had a plan of what the treatment was going to be, even though I knew chemotherapy probably wasn't going to be a lot of fun, I could breathe because I had a plan and I knew that there was going to be an end. The other hard part for me was, my son was only 15 at the time, and thinking
So what's your son's name again?
Is Jordan. Yeah.
Jordan, yeah.
And
how old he was
Jordan,
when you find out, how old Jordan was when you find out you have cancer?
Jordan was 15 at the time, and
Oh, he was a midget still, yeah. Okay.
so he was a teenager, but I remember driving home from the doctors thinking, how do I tell him that? How do I tell him, something that I really don't have all the answers at? So I tried to keep him posted as much as I could with all the information that I got, but that was probably one of the hardest things when it came to dealing with the cancer. And you know what? The funny thing is, I said to him the other day, we were driving somewhere, and I said, this coronavirus thing feels so much like either childbirth or heading towards chemotherapy.
Why is
Because
that? Please, can you compare for us? Let's just say, put the childbirth out because there's a male population as well like me. We don't know this, of course.
No, but it'll make sense.
Yeah.
So why I compare it to that is because when you're in the moment, when you're just about to go through chemotherapy,
Yes.
and I remember sitting the first day, I sat in the chair, and they were about to give me the first dose of chemotherapy. the nurses were dressed in what looked like hazmat suits. They were fully protected because the things that they put in your vein is so poisonous that it would potentially harm them. So I'm sitting in the chair waiting for
So
them
it's going to
to.
harm them, but they're putting in our bodies, right?
Sorry.
So it can harm the nurses and doctors, but they're
Yeah,
putting in our body.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah, because it's a poison. It tries to, or like it tries to kill the cancer, but in the
yeah, yeah.
process, it can kill so many other things. And
Yeah.
so, just sitting in the chair that day, the nurse stood next to me, and she was holding a needle, and I asked her what the needle was for, and she said about 50% of people are allergic to this chemotherapy drug. And I remember sitting there thinking, I don't want to do this. I want to go home, which is kind of the same thing that happens during childbirth. When it really hits you, you're like, I don't want to do this. And that's how I
I'm sorry, I'm
felt.
laughing, but that's like, like childbirth is it's experience. Yes, yeah.
So I don't know if you saw a birth of your son or anybody else, but it's like the pain is so intense. You're so afraid with the chemotherapy because you don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen, and you just
Mhm.
want to get off. You just don't want to do it, and that's how I felt at the beginning of this journey with COVID-19.
Yeah,
I thought, I want to get off this bus. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get on a plane and I want to travel. I want to go and do something fun. But you can't. You're stuck and you have to make the most of it. And you have to go through it no matter what. And so
yeah.
that's why I liken it to chemotherapy and childbirth, because once you're in it, you just got to see it to the end because.
So tell me something like Jordan was your little helper call, right? I mean, your son was there
Yes.
for you. How did you manage to be the mother, to be the businesswoman, and be the cancer patient, and then still be positive?
You know what? I don't know, everything just seemed to work out so easily, I would say. First of all, let me say I'm surrounded by the most incredible friends and my family. And, they were here to help me. And so
Yeah.
Jordan couldn't drive at the time, but he did get himself a job just so that it would take the pressure off of me. So he was going to school, he was
So you
working
tell me,
after
15 years old
school.
boy takes the job to help his mother, who's
Yeah.
going through the chemotherapy with very aggressive cancer, and I mean, Jordan again. Yes, please.
And so, and he would help at home. He would do all the shopping and
Yes.
anything else that I needed. My mom, she kept making me chicken noodle soup, which which is what got me through chemotherapy. Now, if you've been anybody that has been through chemo, um, what you can eat changes a lot. And so chicken soup was the only thing I could eat for pretty much 3 months.
Hmm.
So every couple of days, my dad would drive over and he'd bring me a new supply of chicken soup because that really was the only thing that I could eat. And then my friends would text me every day. They would message me because I wasn't too much up for visits and phone calls, but people kept checking on me and just to make sure that I was okay.
May I ask you one
And
question? Comparing
yeah,
today, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm very curious about this one. Um, Comparing the COVID-19, we in self-isolation and being a cancer patient, have you staying home more when you have the cancer or not?
um, you know what? After with chemotherapy, so I after surgery, I did stay at home for about a week. But then after that, I could get up and I could get out and walk
Yeah.
and do things. With chemotherapy, that was a little bit more tricky because for 10 days I was flat on my back. Going to the bathroom, that was a big excursion for me. To have a shower, it was hard work because you've got
Mm.
nothing. There's nothing left. You have zero energy. And I try to explain to people, having gone through chemo, and I want to say it's not the experience. Everybody doesn't have the same experience with
Yeah.
chemotherapy because a lot depends on the drugs that you are given. The ones that I was given two drugs which were pretty strong, but it meant
Mhm.
that it wiped me out for between 10 days to about 20 days, and it just meant that I couldn't get up, I couldn't move. I was in a lot of pain because I was getting injections to boost my immune system.
Hmm.
But the thing that I feared the most was being sick, vomiting, which is what I'd heard happens
Yeah,
with chemotherapy. That didn't happen because I was given drugs that counteracted the side effect of the chemotherapy. But for me, it was pain because of the injections that I was giving myself. And for the first time, I asked for help. I
yeah,
asked, Jordan would work. Sometimes he was working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and
yes.
his shift wouldn't finish until 11:30 at night. And because I couldn't get out of the house, I had to call my poor dad, who at the age of 80, he'd
Yeah,
drop everything, and at midnight he'd go and pick Jordan up from work. So
that's very,
what
very,
got
very
me
nice of your friend.
yeah. So what got me through my cancer journey were the beautiful doctors and nurses and my family, friends, and of course Jordan. I mean, he was phenomenal during the whole thing, and I think it had a lasting impact on both of us ultimately.
Yeah,
We don't
I
take things
understand.
for
Yeah.
granted, and so I have no regrets of having gone through it, but I'm
Hmm.
glad I'm on the other side, and I can't
Ivana.
wait till we are on the other side of this as well.
Well, that's why I asked you this question before. I mean, we're going to take a short break because I need to give you to breather. You need to have a glass of water or a wine. It's a Friday. It's a 1 o'clock. I mean, it's a happy hour from 12 p.m. today to everybody in Australia. I pronounce this today. It's a legislation. You're listening to line 90.5 Business Success with Mario. And as I'm mentioning, always I try to repeat all of you. It is not what you know, but from who you know. It is the you need to draw them to be empowered and be pushed to understand that every crisis can be overcome. And there's nothing better opportunity than listening to Ivana Katz from the Versailles for Small Businesses sharing with us. And we take a short break and we're going to continue more her story comparing business, COVID, and fighting with the cancer. I mean, Ivana Stelmar, the voice you like to hear always. And as we are living, and we're going through this crisis, as the Prime Minister of Australia said, in 4 weeks' time, we're going to have some loosening, maybe, perhaps, who knows, we don't have crystal ball. And as I said, this is a fluid situation. We're going to continue our program with somebody who I truly believe, not with somebody, with Ivana Katz, the lady who I truly believe she can inspire you more than anybody else, even me, even me. So, and I'm quite inspiring guy. Um, so, I know that you're laughing now, Ivana. Well, all our listeners who just tune on, Ivana Katz, websites for the small businesses. She's truly unique for one simple reason. She survived and faced the death, and despite all odds, and her son Jordan was 15 years old, stepped in to be the man of the house. He's helped his mother to go to this big burden. I mean, which is like facing death. The cancer is not a joke. I mean, even the skin cancer. Some other people say, it's okay, just a skin cancer," but people die from cancer. And the Christ like this actually brings us all together. Now we bring Ivana Katz together to share with us her experience, not just as a business woman, but as somebody who lived that hell of going to the battle with the cancer. I want that over. Now, Ivana, before we took the break, I asked you a question. Now we're living that this crisis, COVID-19, and the people, we are unhappy. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I can't go in the shops. I can't go many things. I can't go on the beach, show my six pack and all these things. But I mean, I need to live with that one. But like when you're comparing your fight for survival, purely survival, it's your instinct to survive. You have a child. I mean, no business, no money, no home, nothing. You're fighting for your life. Now, compared to COVID 19, people die 150,000 plus deaths, and we still find very hard to live in restrictions. Tell us your experience. I mean, you've been in no isolation, but you fought for this. How would you compare this COVID now with this thing you live as a cancer
Well,
patient?
I think because I'm healthy, for me, the experience is different than when I had cancer. When I had cancer, I couldn't move. now I can move around. But you know, it's funny, you were
Yes.
talking about the numbers, and I do look every day to see, you know, how many cases there are and how many people died. And I thought initially when we started looking at the numbers and we were watching the numbers, and they were so scary, so many, you know, thousands and thousands of
Yes.
new cases coming. And I thought, you know what? I wonder how many people die from cancer. And I thought, I want to put it into perspective. And so I did a Google search. And again, you know, you can't take everything that Google said, but it was something like 9.5 million people die of cancer every year. So
Mhm.
9.5. And so I thought, okay, we are dealing with maybe hundreds of thousands of
Yes.
people that will unfortunately die from this.
Yeah.
But when you compare it to cancer, and we don't often hear the numbers, you know, cancer is like everybody has cancer these days. You know, at least you know somebody who's had cancer if you haven't fought it yourself. But when I saw the number 9.5 million people every year that die from cancer, that was a scary number to me, and it helped to put it in perspective. I think with this with this virus, I think where I feel a little bit relieved knowing that I am younger,
Mhm.
also that my son is young and healthy. So if it is to get us, we have a fighting chance.
Yes.
I'm obviously worried about my parents, but they've been in isolation pretty much since day one. So, you know, my brother and I take we were doing shopping for them just so that they wouldn't have to leave the house. So they're pretty much stuck at home most of the time. My mum is on dialysis, so she has to go to the hospital every couple of days to have her
Yes.
dialysis. But other than that, they're at home all the time. I get to go out every day. I started walking, which is something I wasn't doing before.
Yes.
And I want to share a story with you because I had a big aha moment this
Please, I'm
week.
just while you're talking, I'm just checking my bank account to see the millions. Please, did you like it that much?
Yeah, yes, I like to see your
No, no, I'm
bank
just joking.
accounts.
Please, of course, I want to hear the story. That's the reason why you are today here with not just the Mario Bekes or the couple people around me here in the studio in this building, but for the millions of other people, because a lot of people are reading and listening news on a daily basis, and I'm seeing there is so many misinformation, disinformation is there, right? And everybody try to get exclusivity. But I never saw somebody who come out and say, like, listen, this is the problem, this is the issue, this is the mental issue. People die. This is how we should deal, you know what I mean? Let's go bring the somebody here, you know what I mean, who has a need that experience like yourself, but not a dying car accident, you die, but somebody who is going to agony. And I call this agony for the reason because cancer is not a joke. You know what I mean? Look, I can't compare my constipation, I mean, for 2 days. But the cancer, it's deadly, you know what I mean? So are you laughing for my constipation, Ivana? Are you
No,
joking?
not at all. I wouldn't
Okay.
dare.
So please, share with us your experience, yes.
So what I was going to say is after my chemotherapy, and for the last 2 years, I have struggled with energy. I thought, you know, by the time I've gotten to 2 years, I should be okay. I should have gotten over everything. But I was
Yeah.
struggling with getting up well, I was okay for a few hours every day,
Mhm.
but I ran out of energy very quickly, and I would take a nap every couple of days. And
You mean
then
hours?
yeah, and doctors kept saying, look, the more you
Yeah.
exercise, the better you're going to feel. And I would exercise, I would go for a walk, but I would feel exhausted when I come back. And I remember just walking for 15 minutes, and I was worried that by the time, you know, would I have enough energy to come back? So I would only ever walk for 15 minutes in one direction, and then I'd walk straight back just to make sure that I would not run out of steam.
Yeah.
And then as I was sitting here with not a lot to do other than work, I thought I need to give this walking a go a little bit more. And then I thought,
Yes.
what if I just start walking? I don't look over my shoulders how far my home is. What if I just keep walking and see how far I can go?
And how
And
far did
I
you go?
and I said, well, I ended up walking for 90 minutes. But the only reason was because I said to Jordan, who now drives. He's 18, so he drives. And I said to him, "Will you come and pick me up wherever I go, like wherever I
Yeah.
end up?"
Yes. Yeah.
And he said, "Yes, of course." So I set out from home and I walked for about 90 minutes, which is something I hadn't done for years. But just knowing that I had somebody to back me up and somebody to pick me up when I can't keep going anymore, that gave me such relief and so much power to go forward. And I realized that all this time when I thought that I wasn't able to do the walks physically, it wasn't about my physical ability. It was actually about the fear of not being able to get back home. But having had that plan B, it was huge. And
So
it just,
yeah.
yeah, sorry.
So like I want to ask you something, but before I ask a question, I just want to say I truly admire you because it's like we didn't even touch your business here. I mean, you talk about experience, which I asked you before we start rolling the show today, and I mean, I can see through my life experience, there's a lot of heroes there. Yeah, let's also call the heroes, right? I mean, and they are all visible. I mean, I've done this. Look at my story. Blah blah blah. My daddy was not fair. Life didn't give me McDonald's. I mean, blah blah blah. Anyway, the bottom line is, I saw to the suffering pain, to the cup words. I mean, and I saw the heroes. Like they're always quiet ones, and like yourself. And that actually gives more confidence, not to me, but everybody who work with you, that you don't take it prisoners. I mean, you go to a deal of the cancer, suffering, 15 years old boy, when I said boy, your son Jordan, 15 years old child, uh, takes a job, works till midnight to help his mother, and then you still work with your clients. Now, a part of this, excuse my selfishness now, but it's like, can you tell me in these situations of COVID now, you said, you were grateful that somebody backed you up. And I say, I can relate to these things, you, anybody else with, this self-isolation and restricted, moments and everything else. But, nobody talks about COVID, taking the toll on the mental health. And as I say, I learned one thing in the war. During the war, I have the very, very good, commanding officer told me, enjoy the war, Mari, because when the peace comes, it's going to be terrible. And it was true, because
Wow.
you have the one type of the life, but then everything comes, as an inverse type, sleepless nights. I was abusing the drugs and alcohol. Like, I was 22, 20 years old, and like I was thinking that life is not tomorrow. And then eventually, when the peace came in, you realize, how much you missed from the life and your health was deteriorated and so on and so on. Now, in these situations of COVID, now you mentioned that you have someone to back you up. That was your son, Jordan. So, hello, Jordan. Hopefully, you have a girlfriend because mom is going to smack her. But at the point, it is, what would you suggest or what would you advise our listeners, because you've gone through that ordeal, how to deal with mental issues if they are at home? How would you advise
And you
somebody
know
to do?
what? Thank you for asking that question, because to be honest, as you were saying, talking about being in the war, being in the battle, you are focused on the survival in that moment. It's
Yes,
what happens afterwards, the aftermath that you're dealing with. And for me, the transition from cancer to normal life was about a month, and that was really difficult.
please share
I
with us,
felt
because we can compare this with, let's just say, when COVID started finishing, let's say, easing. I think at that period, the transition is going to be terrible because every day we are staying at homes and everything else, which is, we must do this, the transition is going to be hard, and then particularly is going to be afterwards going to be even harder. So please,
I
compare
think
this.
because at the moment we're kind of in a safe bubble, most of us. And I heard, what you were talking about, Michael, and unfortunately, I do realize this, domestic violence. But for the most of us, we are in a safe home, we're in a bubble, and we are being protected by I think our government, and I think they're doing a great job in helping people financially. But I think once this finishes and we have to deal with the real world, it's going to become a lot harder, and there's going to be a transition time. And the way I looked at it with cancer, I knew again there was going to be an end. So we're going
Yes,
through a difficult time. There will be a transition, and then we'll get back to normal. Our normal is going to look different than it did before this, but it's going to be normal, and we are going to adjust the way I adjusted post cancer. And in fact, I actually think we're going to look at this time and we're going to be so grateful. I look at it now and I'm very grateful because I get more time. So I said, Jordan's now 18. He spends a lot of his time with his friends. Now he's forced to be home with me. So might not be a great thing for
Again,
him.
like this time, that was this before it was voluntarily. Now it's you must stay at home. Yeah?
Yeah, that's
Understand?
right.
Yeah.
So I the way I choose to look at it now is I do watch the news maybe for half an hour a day and I don't watch it anymore.
Why is that?
What Because I think you can become so overwhelmed. And this was a coping mechanism that I also learned going through chemotherapy. My oncologist said to me, don't look at Dr. Google, you'll drive yourself crazy. And I realized that very quickly that if
So do you
all I
believe that
did
people
was,
drive themselves crazy because they're watching now the too much news and you know what I mean?
yeah,
You
it
agree
can.
with me? Okay, please.
Yeah, so it can, like, if you're just watching the number and you're watching people die, it's scary because you think, what if it gets me? And so you get yourself worked up. So I watch it for maybe half an hour a day, and then for the rest of the time, I'm either working or talking to clients or to friends, or I'm watching TV. And I'm not going to tell you what I watch because I got a lot of flack for that, but I just watch silly TV.
I'm interested just for the PIN number. Now, Ivana, transition from you being very ill and battle and being that war with the cancer, and thanks to your son Jordan who was there for you, and I mean, you built successful business was a call website for small businesses. Why small businesses?
Because I came from the corporate world and I
Yes.
decided I did not want to be working with the corporates only because of all the politics. I wasn't very good
Yeah.
at playing the office politics game. And so I wanted to work with people that are excited about life, that are excited about starting a new adventure. And so
Mhm.
that's why I positioned myself as a website designer for small businesses.
Well, Ivana, thank you very much. Look, we take a short break so you can have some sip of water. Check for that number, PIN number. I ask you for your account so I can add on my one. You're listening to Live 90.5 Business Insights with Mario. With us is Ivana Katz from the Small Business websites for the small businesses, and her very, very powerful, very, very strong, empowering story. It will be available for all of you later on today on our Live 90.5 .com.au website, and you can hear it, her story, and you can draw the energy and this song because we're gonna wrap it up in 10 minutes. And this very guest of mine, Ivana Katz, website for small businesses, she shared with us her story of survival, and survival she based on her desire to live and with the help of her son Jordan. Jordan, if you listen to this once again, I know I met you before. Congratulate you. Like you can be very proud of your mom. Love to you and mommy Ivana. You can be very proud of your son. Now, Ivana. Now we spoke about survival of the cancer. Now, can you share with us what we started before the break? You said you don't want to be in corporate world, politics, I mean, this and that stuff. Websites for small businesses, just to come from, it's not really what it, so, I mean, so how do you help the people? Like, I mean, do you draw your creativity from some your life events, or, when clients come to you, so like, I want a website, do you say like, you don't need a big clunky website, I mean, you need something unique. How do you transfer the client desire to have a website into the website?
So what I do is I get into the client's head and
Oh, it's a my
we
control now. Okay, didn't know. Here it goes. So that's what we're talking about.
yeah, I have magic powers that you don't know about.
Yes.
No,
Oh,
because I think when people come to me, they say, "Oh, I'm not very technical," and and they're afraid of technology. So what I try to do is I try to speak in plain English and explain the technical side of things, and then I take them through step by step. And so my main objective is when I'm creating somebody's website is that it's going to
mhm.
be a website that will actually convert visitors into paying customers. So I don't look at
Okay.
just a website being pretty or just being functional, but that it actually translates into sales. And there's a lot that goes into a website like that. Now, if I could just sit here and I could just go at 100 miles an hour, and I find that when I did that initially, people would just have this glazed look on their faces and they go like, what are you talking about? So I know to take things one step at a time. So what do we do first? First, we register a domain name. Let's talk about it. We figure that out. Then we talk about the content. We talk about the images. Where I think a lot of businesses fail as far as websites go, or where people take it into their own hands to create their own websites, is in credibility.
What do you mean credibility?
Credibility. Okay, let me give you an example. I'm actually a pretty good cook, which you might not know. But if I was to release...
Good to know. I'll bring everybody for lunch next Sunday, please.
Sure, always welcome.
Yes.
So if I was to release a book tomorrow, do you think anybody would buy it? Probably not. If I was Nigella and I released a book tomorrow, would people buy it? Absolutely.
Yes.
What's the difference between Nigella and I when it comes to cooking?
Well,
she has the credibility.
But she loves extracurricular activities, you know what I mean? Say a couple lines, you know what I mean?
Okay, let's talk about, I don't know what Nigella does. But
yes,
you get
I know.
the
She
point.
has credibility, yes.
So she has credibility. People trust her, people know her, and people like her. So this is where the problem is for a lot of small businesses. When they're especially coming on for the first time, people don't know them, therefore they don't like them and they don't trust them. And so one of the main things that I tell people is that we need to introduce credibility boosters. And these are things like testimonials. And I know sometimes if you're starting in business, you might not have any testimonials from happy clients. And in that case, what I say is give away your products or your services. Maybe give them away to 15 people and ask for feedback in return. Now, most people, if they are to get something for free or at a heavily discounted rate, they are more than happy to give you feedback. If you've been in business for a while and you've got existing customers, especially now when we're at home and we've got time on our hands, I say go and get testimonials. If you can get video testimonials, they're by far the most powerful.
Oh, really?
ones.
Video testimonials,
Video testimonials, yeah. Otherwise, if you can at least get a photo of the person, their name, the city, the company, the more information you can have about the person who provided you the testimonial, the more weight it carries, the more trustworthy it is. So testimonials are one of the best ways for people to get to know you through somebody else's eyes. The next one I say is do case studies. And what I mean is, say, for example, you're a business coach and you've got a client that comes to you and you'll help them work through a problem. And so what I would suggest is write up the problem that you were helping the client to work through, the process that you took them through, and what the outcome was on the other side. Case studies are incredibly powerful because people feel like, you know what, I'm in the same boat as this client and I know that this business coach consultant can help me. So case studies, testimonials, very powerful. If you're a photographer, maybe a photo gallery.
Yes.
That's another really good thing to have for credibility. Or a portfolio. So on my website, I include portfolio of all the websites I've created and also logos that my graphic designer has done. Other things, if you belong to trade associations, and this is good for trade. So a lot of my carpet cleaner clients, they have different trade associations that they belong to. If you also represent well-known brands, and I say showcase their logo because people trust you because you represent something that they already trust. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, though, is not including proper contact information on their website.
That's why I'm not surprised there. Why I'm not surprised there. Well, look, Ivana, if somebody wants to discuss, and actually believe that this opportunity to discuss, I mean, it's a hard, and many people also Man, people lost the work. You know, I mean, it's terrible. Like, you know, I mean, I don't need to say I know. I've been there, of course, but it's you know, it's people don't see maybe, you know, I mean, the light in the tunnel, which is, you know, I mean, I understand, but maybe it's opportunity for some people to think and plan for the future in the sense of they want to run their own business and they need a website, or the people with existing websites and they're still trading. How they can reach you?
How they can reach me? They can reach me through my website, which is
Mhm.
web number 4business.com.au. And I offer 30-minute free website strategy. So if somebody has a website already that might be working with another web designer, they can still contact me and I can give them a fresh perspective on the things that may be missing on their website.
Well, Ivana, you know, I will post today our interview, and you know, I mean, I'm gonna make sure that everybody here, you know, here they can know how they can reach you. I'm truly thankful for time here today. Sorry, my mouth is dry. I didn't have the glass of water last hour. Uh, I'm very grateful, thankful for having you today in the studio with us. I will post your interview today on our 90.5 website and on other platforms. And anybody who's interested to talk to Ivana Katz from the website for small businesses, please feel free. And Ivana, thank you for sharing with us your story today. Please stay safe and sound with you and your son Jordan.
Thank you so much, Mara. It's been a pleasure talking to you again.
You're welcome, man. Everybody, thank you for listening to 90.5. This is Mario. It's time for a new show. And everybody who was interested, and you all will be interested in interviewing with Michael Lehan and one of the cats, please go on our website, live 90.5 fm.co.au. And in a couple hours, we're going to hit that powerful interview for both of our guests. Thank you again. Ivana, thank you again.